The air was thick with an eerie stillness that felt anything but natural as Timothée Chalamet found himself staring into a swirling, shimmering vortex that had erupted right before his eyes. A portal that seemed to hum with a low, almost sentient vibration, twisting reality itself. His heart hammered in his chest like a frantic drum, the blood pounding so loudly it drowned out all rational thought. As the edges of the portal flickered with iridescent light, his mind raced, caught between disbelief and the raw surge of adrenaline pushing him forward. The world beyond the portal was a distorted reflection of the one he knew, bathed in cold hues of steel blue and shadow, skyscrapers twisted into sharp, unnatural angles beneath a sky bruised with an ominous purple glow. The city hummed with a strange, mechanical rhythm, ominous, yet eerily calm, as if the entire planet was holding its breath. Timothy's usual charm and easy confidence gave way to a cautious, trembling curiosity. This was no film set, no carefully curated photo shoot. This was something alive, something dangerous. At his side was Aiden, a sharp-witted friend whose usual skepticism was melting into wide-eyed awe, gripping a worn leather journal that had inexplicably hinted at this moment long before it arrived. Meanwhile, Lila, a bold and fiercely loyal companion, paced with restless energy, her instincts screaming at her to run or fight, yet her eyes locked on the figure stepping from the other side, a dark mirror of Timothée himself, dressed in a tailored black uniform emblazoned with an insignia that whispered of power and ruthless dominion. The two Timothées locked eyes, each reflecting the other's shock but twisting it into different emotions. One confusion and a desperate hope to understand, the other cold calculation and a hint of cruel amusement. Physically, Timothy's breath caught, his body tense, muscles taut as if ready to spring but weighed down by the surreal enormity of the situation. His mind churned with a maelstrom of questions. How was this possible? What did this evil twin want? Could he trust the friends beside him, or was this some elaborate trap? Around them, the sounds of this strange Earth-2 world whispered secrets and threats, the faint hum of distant machinery underscoring a silent tension that neither ally nor enemy could yet fully reveal. The foundation of their reality had fractured in a single moment, and though the answers remained locked in the shadows ahead, Timothy's resolve flickered into life. This encounter was just the first step into a labyrinth of mysteries where every reflection held a darker truth, and the true adventure was only just beginning. As the initial shock began to recede, replaced by a simmering blend of fear and fierce determination, Timothée and his companions exchanged glances heavy with unspoken questions and fragile resolve, knowing that hesitation now could mean losing the fragile thread that tethered them to any hope of returning home, or at least understanding the world they'd been plunged into. With a breath that trembled yet carried a quiet fire, Timothée took the first tentative step across the threshold. The ground beneath his feet oddly cold and metallic, and as his eyes adjusted further to this distorted version of reality, the sleek, oppressive skyline loomed like a silent sentinel watching their every move, the cityscape seemingly alive with surveillance devices glinting in the unnatural light, and the air thick with a faint but persistent metallic tang, as if the very atmosphere was infused with something both synthetic and suffocating. Aiden flipped open his journal, now revealing cryptic sketches and indecipherable notes that hinted at this mirror universe's existence and the consequences of crossing into it, the pages fluttering in an unseen breeze that seemed to whisper warnings, while Lila, ever the pragmatist, scanned their surroundings, her sharp eyes catching the flicker of shadowy figures moving. Just beyond the edges of their vision, enforcers of this Earth-2 regime, no doubt, their presence a chilling reminder that the evil twin wielded not just power but ruthless control. Forced to choose their next move, they decided to seek out a rumored underground resistance, a network whispered about in fragments of intercepted messages and half-buried digital footprints, hoping to find allies or at least answers, but every step deeper into this world was a negotiation with doubt and fear. Timothy's mind warred with itself, the uncanny familiarity of his twin's visage gnawing at his sense of identity, fueling an internal storm of questions about nature, choice, and fate. They navigated labyrinthine alleyways bathed in unnatural neon hues, encountering patrol drones that scanned for dissent with piercing beams, forcing the group into frantic hide-and-seek through crumbling ruins of what once might have been familiar landmarks, the tension in the air palpable enough to choke on, while beneath the surface of this physical danger lurked a far more insidious threat, distrust within their own ranks. Aiden, whose skepticism had kept them grounded, began to fray at the edges, his mind plagued by visions of betrayal, while Lila's boldness clashed with Timothy's rising uncertainty, creating a fragile triangle of alliance threatened by fear and exhaustion. Just when it seemed the weight of this strange, hostile world might crush their resolve, a figure emerged from the shadows. Seraphine, a mysterious and enigmatic woman whose piercing gaze held both the promise of guidance and the shadow of secrets, claiming to be part of the resistance but revealing little of her true motives, adding a new layer of complexity and unease. As they tentatively followed her through hidden passages and underground tunnels pulsing with quiet rebellion, the emotional stakes deepened. Timothy grappled with the burden of his mirrored self's tyranny looming over every choice, haunted by the fear that he might be destined to walk the same dark path, while the others struggled to reconcile the desperate hope for freedom with the suffocating weight of this mirrored world's despair. Every encounter, every whispered conversation hinted at larger conspiracies and brutal sacrifices made in shadows, and though their feet carried them further into the unknown, their hearts hammered with a primal dread that no clear answer lay ahead, only the cold certainty that the road back, if it even existed, would be littered with danger, deception, and the hard, painful truths about who they truly were and who they might become. In the dimly lit sanctuary of the Resistance's hidden stronghold, a cold hush settled over Timothy and his companions, the air thick with the weight of impending fate as the final confrontation loomed like a storm on the horizon, their hurried breaths mingling with the low hum of distant machinery and whispered strategy. Every scar, every fleeting victory and painful loss had brought them here, to a fragile moment of tense stillness before the inevitable unraveling of all that had been fought. For, where every heartbeat echoed like a drum marking the last steps before a plunge into chaos. Timothy's fingers trembled slightly as he examined the assortment of makeshift weapons and digital devices scattered across the rough-hewn table, tools cobbled together from scavenged technology and the raw ingenuity of desperate minds, while his eyes, dark with resolve and flickers of doubt, traced the worn map that charted the labyrinthine corridors of Earth-2's fortified palace where his twisted mirror self ruled with an iron fist. He was painfully aware now that this evil twin's strength lay not only in his military might but in a deeply rooted psychological manipulation that had kept the populace subdued, an empire built on fear, control, and the exploitation of their deepest insecurities. Yet beneath that cold exterior, Timothy sensed fissures, subtle weaknesses masked by years of calculated domination, a hidden dependency on the loyalty of a select few advisors who feared betrayal more than death, a fragile paranoia that betrayed cracks in his seemingly impenetrable facade. As the group gathered, Aiden steadying his nerves with a quiet breath, clutching a compact hacking device designed to cripple surveillance systems, and Lila pacing with a restless fire in her eyes, her hands tightening around a custom-made weapon forged from the shards of their broken world. There was an unspoken understanding that this battle was as much mental and emotional as it was physical. Seraphine, enigmatic as ever, laid out a plan that balanced precision with boldness, to infiltrate the heart of the stronghold under the cover of the city's artificial night, using a combination of stealth, digital warfare, and guerrilla tactics to sever the evil twin's control and sow confusion among his ranks, while Timothy would confront the reflection of his darkest fears in a final face-to-face clash that might decide not only their fate but the fate of two intertwined worlds. The weight of responsibility pressed down on them all, but in the brief moments of calm, their inner turmoil surfaced. Timothy wrestled with the shadow of doubt that whispered he might become what he fought against. Aiden struggled with the fear of losing not just the battle but his own identity, and Lila masked her trembling hope beneath a veneer of fierce determination. With the first cold rays of Earth-2's dawn filtering through narrow slits in the walls, they shared quiet words of encouragement and final farewells, sealing their resolve and understanding that the choices they made now would ripple outward, altering everything in ways they couldn't yet foresee. The horizon brimmed with uncertainty, every heartbeat charged with the electric tension of a story on the cusp of its climax, As the calm before the storm whispered that once they crossed this line, there would be no turning back, only the raw, relentless surge of confrontation, revelation, and the desperate hope for redemption in a world teetering on the edge of collapse. The air crackled with tension as Timothée and his allies breached the cold, steel heart of the Earth-2 stronghold, every step echoing like a drumbeat of impending fate beneath flickering lights that cast long, distorted shadows. An ominous stage set for a confrontation that was as much a battle of wills as of weapons. Their carefully laid plans spiraled into chaos as alarms blared and mechanical sentinels surged from hidden alcoves, forcing a brutal dance of survival where every breath could be. The last and every decision carved the thin line between salvation and annihilation. Timothée's eyes locked onto the imposing figure of his dark twin, whose cruel smirk was a mirror warped by tyranny and pain, a living embodiment of the oppressive force they had come to dismantle, and in that charged moment, it became clear that this confrontation was about far more than reclaiming a world. It was a reckoning of identity, choice, and the fragile boundary between light and shadow within themselves. As they clashed, words laced with bitterness and desperate hope tore through the tension. A battle of ideologies waged alongside the physical struggle. Timothée pleading for redemption, for a chance to break the cycle of fear, while his twin taunted with the cold certainty of control and destiny. The fight pushed each character to their limits. Aiden risked everything to disable the fortress's core defenses, his hands shaking yet steady as he hacked through layers of encrypted systems, while Lila's fierce determination turned her into a whirlwind of precision and force, protecting their flanks and holding off overwhelming odds. Yet the cost was steep, wounds carved deep both in flesh and spirit, sacrifices made in moments of painful clarity as comrades fell or faced impossible choices, and the weight of their mission threatening to crush hope. Beneath it all, the defining moment came when Timothée, facing the abyss of his own fears reflected in his twin's eyes, made a split-second decision to reach out not with violence but with a vulnerable confession of shared pain and desire for change, fracturing the ironclad resolve of the tyrant just long enough for the resistance to strike the decisive blow that shattered the chains of oppression. As the stronghold trembled and the oppressive sky above began to clear, a profound silence fell, one filled with grief for what was lost, but also with a fragile promise of renewal. Timothée, forever marked by the darkness he confronted, emerged transformed, tempered by loss, humbled by the depths of his own inner battles, yet strengthened by the fierce love and loyalty of those who stood by him. The world of Earth-2 began to breathe anew, its people slowly rising from the shadows of fear, while Timothée and his friends faced a future uncertain yet ripe with possibility, aware that the scars of their journey would forever shape who they were but not define what they could become. Their story, a testament to resilience and the power of choice, closed one chapter while quietly opening another, an echo of hope whispered on the wind of two intertwined worlds. And if you've been captivated by this tale of courage, identity, and the battle between light and shadow, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys that challenge the limits of imagination and heart, because every story deserves to be told, and every adventure is only just beginning.